Well, hello everyone, and welcome to what I'm sure is going to be the highlight of the session today. This is the Young Global Changers Recoupling Awards. We're going to show you some projects that are going to awe and inspire you. These are living, breathing examples of the ideas that we've been discussing all day at Global Solutions turned into everyday practical solutions. They are stunning examples of how we can sustain economic prosperity, social well-being, and environmental care. Now, we have finalists from all around the world with us today. We are honored that they are with us in Berlin. We only wish we could give prizes out to all of them, but that is not how these competitions work. But I think we should show our congratulations and give our encouragement to all of our finalists. Let's give them all a big round of applause. And now to tell you more about the Young Global Changers Recoupling Awards, please welcome the programme leader, my co-host for this evening. Welcome, please, Ollie Spies.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Declan. Welcome, everyone. We are the last session of today, which means we are the only thing standing between you and the drinks at the bar. But I can assure you this will be worth your time. We have, as Declan mentioned, 15 wonderful finalists here with us. They are all young global changers. All of them are involved in a project that is bringing about change on the ground in their communities, in their countries, in their regions. And you, dear audience here and at home, you will watch 10 presentations in total of these projects. And we have a wonderful jury with us who will award 3 awards. And we also have 2 special awards that we will hand out later in this session. So let me just say, none of this would, of course, be possible without our supporting partners. And I want to thank PwC and also the German Federal Environmental Foundation, among many other partners who have supported us all these years along the way to make this happen. And please join me in thanking our partners, thanking everyone who made this possible, and especially thanking the 15 young global changers coming from all over the world here with us in this room. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Now, we have our contestants, we have our finalists from around the world, but someone has got to choose from among them to decide who walks away with the 3rd prize, the 2nd prize, and the 1st prize here this evening. The people with that unenviable task, that impossible choice, are our judges. So please join me in welcoming them to their stage. They are Julia Pomares, Shukri Toifi, and Mariana Heinrich. Give them a round of applause. You will notice that, judges, that unlike some other talent shows that we might have seen on the television, I didn't ask the audience to boo you as you made your way to the stage, because they will be with you in your choices. It also says here that at this point, the judges do not speak. That's also worth noticing. What the judges are going to do is they are going to ask questions of our finalists. So we have 8 finalists in this section. These are the finalists for the awards at the end of the presentation. We're going to see a little video about each of them. Then the person behind that project, or one of the team behind that project, will come to this stage and they will face our judges' questions. Judges, be kind, be nice, be gentle, but be thorough with your questioning as well. So our first finalist this evening is Abundant Water. Let's first of all take a look at the video that tells us more about that project.
Abundant Water addresses a lack of access to safe drinking water in rural communities in Timor-Leste, Laos and the Philippines through a social business model. We train local entrepreneurs in business and wash skills to sell easy-to-use, low-cost water filters within their communities. These vendors become part of a large distribution network, reaching customers through the use of their own local and social connections. Our social business model harnesses the opportunity and forces of the market to bring real change to people's lives, and our filters provide a cheap and simple technology that meets World Health Organization standards by removing 99.9% of bacteria. To date, we have reached over 170,000 beneficiaries. We have also got free filters into over 500 schools and health clinics. Through the use of our filters, our beneficiaries, or rather customers, have experienced reduced sickness, especially amongst children. Additionally, as families no longer need to spend time collecting or buying firewood to boil water to make it safe to drink, this saves them both time and money. Alongside the social benefits of this, there are also environmental benefits, because trees no longer need to be cut down and firewood no longer needs to be burnt, meaning that less carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. Meanwhile, ongoing filter sales provide important revenue for the vendors we train, particularly for female vendors living in areas of little economic opportunity.
And from Abundant Water, Emily Glazebrook, please join us on the stage to face the judges' questions.
Yeah, I have one.
You can start?
Yeah.
That's what you can start.
Judges, go ahead. Who has the first question?
So, fantastic. I love the idea. My key question is, the filters that are being replaced, how much do they cost, and can people actually afford it, on the one hand, from a buyer's perspective, and from the seller's perspective, does it make them enough money to live on?
So do you mean the filters themselves or the subsequent replacement filters?
The replacement filters,
Okay.
yeah.
So our pricing structure is that we sell the filter itself for $25, but then the replacement is just $6. And that provides you with over a year of access to safe drinking water. So in the timeline of a year, they would otherwise be spending far, far more than this. So in that sense, it is definitely affordable. However, it's still a challenge to make people view it in that way, because $6 can be seen as still a purchase, even though in the amount they're saving, it's actually a good benefit. And our vendors make $4 out of this, whereas when they sell the original filter, they make $7. So it's seen as a lower level of effort, because these small filters are just one small part, so it's not a huge amount of effort to just go and replace that one part. So I think from both sides it's viable, and from the outset the customer knows that they need to make that replacement filter purchase. But it's been an issue that we've tried to work out over time. And so one final thing is that in the schools and health clinics that we support, we make sure we provide those replacements, because we know it's very tricky for them to be able to afford those replacements.
Thank you very much. 1 minute left. One more question, probably.
170,000 people impacted already. Tell us a little bit. I mean, I think it's a really compelling project. It kind of ticks all the boxes socially, environmentally, and from an economic perspective. Practically speaking, do we see people kind of walking around with ceramic bottles and filters? How is it done in 50 seconds?
I suppose it's sometimes you just walk into a school and you see there's 2 or 3 of our filters in every single classroom. Sometimes it's that you go to a really remote region of the country or a guest house or anything, and you walk in and there's a filter. So it's really, I think that's what I've loved most about this project, is that it's getting filters into those really hard to reach areas because of our use of local vendors, that otherwise most projects can't make it to those kind of regions.
Thank you. Can we get one more question in, Julia, in 20 seconds?
Yes. I think it's a fantastic project. What is the 10-year plan for this? What do you imagine this could happen in 10 years with this project?
I think we want to solidify our presence in our 3 countries. The Philippines is a very new project, so we still have a long way to go here. But also expand wherever we can, whilst also always adapting to the country in hand. So at the moment, our product is different in each country, and we would want to take that forward into any future countries we're able to expand to.
And that is our time. Thank you very much. Please, turn the microphone.
Maybe we'll alternate, I'll go first, and then we'll just...
Thank you, judges. If I may say, shorter questions next time. Thank you very much. Next is Boys Champions. Let's see the video for that.
cheap debts, increasing rape and physical violence are making our women and girls engendered species. Globally, 1 in every 3 women has been abused according to World Health Organization and the United Nations. In Nigeria, where I come from, gender-based violence is a pervasive issue with men being the primary perpetrators. Though underreported, but statistics from National Population Commission and the Nigerian Demographic and Health Survey show that more than 51% of Nigerian women between the ages of 15 and 49 have experienced either sexual or physical violence by their intimate partners. As a 9-year-old boy, I watched my mom being raped by a gang of 3 armed robbers. My mom, who was heavily pregnant at that point, had complications a couple of weeks later on the process of giving birth. She died and the child also died. It's been 20 years since that experience happened. I have not been able to heal totally. I have grown. I am my mother's son. And today I have committed to working with young men to end violence against women and girls in Nigeria. The statistics that I mentioned earlier highlight the urgent need for programs like Boys Champions to empower young boys and men to become part of the process of ending gender-based violence in Nigeria. I started Boys Champions after meeting Barack Obama in Johannesburg as an Obama Foundation Fellow. Boys Champions is a youth non-profit organization that is advocating against sexual violence and gender-based violence as well. We're providing prevention mechanisms, mentorship, and supporting survivors with psychosocial services. It is clear to us that our women are in grave danger. And if we have to end gender-based violence across the world, then there is the urgent need for every stakeholder, including boys and men, to stand up and take action. This is what we are doing at Boys Champions, by working with these young boys, teaching them positive masculinity and how to relate with men and women alike. My name is Noel Alumona, and I'm the founder of Boys Champions.
Noel, welcome to our stage. Judges, your questions.
Noel, firstly, thank you so much for coming forward and sharing your story with us. My question relates to the sustainability of your organization. It seems to me that it's not self-funding and doesn't have a mechanism to be self-sustainable.
Yeah, that's very important. As a non-profit organization, we rely solely on grants, just like other non-profits. And this is because we have to make our programs and projects very accessible to even the commonest of all young people across the country. So we rely mostly on funding from different organizations and partners.
Thank you. Next question.
Thank you, Noel, for sharing this project and your story. How do you measure the impact of the activities, especially when attitudes, I guess, take some time to change, and it's difficult to measure cultural attitudes and behavior in their everyday lives?
Yeah, thank you. So we have 2 major metrics that we utilize in measuring impacts. Number 1 is qualitative, and then the second one is quantitative. So for the qualitative, we focus more on measuring the experiences and, of course, the thoughts and knowledge that these young boys come into our program, especially when they're being introduced. So we ask them, to get more information on their insight or, the different thoughts that they have about, gender-based violence or, healthy masculinity. And we see that most of these boys who join our programs, from the time they come in, they do not have any idea. So in the process of their journey with us, as they progress, we're able to, maybe in 6 months, 1 year, we're able to also have these important conversations with them. And we see that they have actually progressed, over time. So just having that conversation. And then talking about the qualitative, we see that in the different relationships that they have, with the women in their lives. It could be their younger sisters, it could also be their parents, and then, their girlfriends, as the case may be. The other important thing that we have to also look at is the fact that these programs go ahead to transform the lives of these young boys. For instance, we've seen about 32 of our boys who are, globally out of the country studying at different universities right now on scholarship. And some of these boys are also leading different social enterprise back home in Nigeria. So for us, these impacts are recorded as a result, as a result of this. And then the last thing I would also mention is that we work with the Sustainable Development SDG number 5 in mind, and the different indicators that I've mentioned and the analysis that we usually go into through our measurement and evaluation team also helps us to ensure that they align with the indicators of the SDG number 5. And once we're meeting up with those targets, then we're really achieving, the impact in the community and on individual levels.
No, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you, judges, for your questions. Okay. Our third finalist today is Community Collections. Let's see the video that tells us more about that.
Hi everyone, my name is Juliet and I'm the founder of Community Collections. I grew up with my single grandma in a remote and rural village in Uganda because my parents were victimized by disability when I was at the age of 5 years. My single grandma was a tailor and inspired me as a child to use cut-offs and plastic waste. I could gather in the village to produce my own dolls since she could not afford buying me one. What others throw away, I started to use them as a valuable resources for me to create something. This changed my mindset towards waste, and I started to see the value in protecting the environment. At the age of 20 years, I and my team founded Chimuli Collections that gave us a strength to fight for the conservation of the environment and inclusion of persons living with disabilities in Uganda. We collect plastic waste from different landfills, sort it, wash it, dry it, cut it into different pieces, blend it with African fabrics, and tailor it into sustainable products. We do produce durable, sustainable, waterproof garments and accessories like raincoat jackets, makeup kits, pencil bags, and many more. We also train people living with disabilities hands-on skills of creative tailoring and on how to turn plastic waste into fashion such that they can become self-sustainable and independent. Waste is not waste not until you waste it, and disability is not inability. Join us. Thank you.
She's wearing it. No, it's your turn.
And you are wearing an example of it here right now. Welcome to our stage. This is your microphone, and the judges have their questions.
Thank you for sharing this project. How do you motivate and find the waste collectors? And how is the process of recruiting people for the project?
Thank you so much. We go to communities where most of our marginalized unemployment youths are. We mentor them, coach them, train them how to collect these plastic waste from different landfills. And after training them, they collect the waste for us and bring them to our waste collection center, and we pay them per kilogram of what they have collected. Most of these marginalized youths have been able to create their own employment. They have set their own waste collection centers, and even now we are buying most of the waste from them, and they're self-sustainable and independent.
Thank you. Next question.
I was wondering, love it. Looks amazing. How much does that earn you and your staff? Like, can you actually live off the revenue that you make?
Yes, we do. For example, this jacket that you're seeing, it cost $100. And we have been able to at least 40% of the procedures, for example, that comes out of the jackets, they've been able to empower more disabled women, youths, and other tailors. And even as the staff, we are able to sustain ourselves out of the revenue that we generate from these upcycled products.
Thank you. Judges, next question.
Congrats on an amazing project. How do you create some scale to your project? It sort of, it strikes me that it might take a while to kind of spread this. And if there was an investor sitting here today that gave you $10 $10,000 or $20,000, how would you use that?
I would be able to upcycle, collect more plastic waste from different landfills and produce it into more sustainable products that I can be able to sell both local and globally. I'll be able to increase on the job creation of the marginalized disabled women who work as tailors, such that they can become more self-sustainable and independent. These women will also be able to become trainers of other trainers in other communities. I'll also be able to create a Chimuli training skills program for more revenue. For example, introducing more skills training programs for our women, such that they can also become more self-sustainable, and even as the project, we can be able to sustain ourselves. I'll be able also to expand on our market size, such that I can reach more wider market and be able to, so that people can be able to get our product in all nations. Thank you.
Are you offering the money? Has this turned into Dragon's Den or something? May I ask a question?
Yes.
Is it comfortable?
Very comfortable, it's durable, waterproof. Imagine Germany, it's one of the countries which is always cold. Please order for this.
Juliet, thank you so very much. Thank you for sharing your story with us, and congratulations on your continuing success. If you're handing out $20,000, I'll have a word with you afterwards. Right, the next one that we're going to hear from, our next excellent finalist in this wonderful parade of examples of brilliance that we're seeing today. This is El Avispero.
Let's talk about bubbles. These bubbles do not let people connect with each other in Colombia. El Avispero seeks that these bubbles connect or even pop, and that people realize that they can dream of a different Colombia, they can seek for it, and they can change it. I was born in a bubble of privilege in Colombia, but this was a very different bubble because it had a keyhole. This flexible bubble made me think of the world in a very different way. This happened because my parents were from two different places in Colombia, from two very different worlds. So this different bubble made me have empathy, made me seek for opportunities to connect people where other people didn't see it. Today in El Avispero, more than 140,000 people realize that their bubbles can connect and that their reality can change. For example, we want a reality where public officials have not violated human rights in Colombia. That is why we are demanding the resignation of the director of the National Police using civic tech. We also accompany protests in Colombia. We make graffiti murals to talk about different causes, and we connect people in offline events. Today we know that this bubble can be as huge as we imagine it, and that change is the only thing constant in the world. But this change will be led by people. And sometimes these people need that their bubble has a tiny little hole. And why not for that hole to be made by a bee that flies from El Avispero?
Maria, welcome to our stage. The judges have their questions. This is your microphone.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you. That's a wonderful project. A little bit similar what was asked earlier. So your organization is a non-profit. Do you have any income in terms of like that you make from the events that you organize, from the platforms that you run, or is it all relying on grants coming in?
We do have grants, but we also do fundraising. Mm-hmm. So people donate to El Avispero. Some of them donate monthly, some of them donate yearly, and some of them donate just one time.
Okay, thank you.
Congrats again on an amazing project. How do you control the editorial control in terms of the fact that it's a very subjective process, right? So the values, the goals, the ethics that you perhaps personally, as the director of this organization, may want to drive. And yet there may be people who give expression to that and think of that slightly differently.
Yeah. That's an interesting question. We try to include all of the voices in Colombia, but I cannot deny that we are a progressive organization. We have progressive values. So people tend to form in a very organic way around El Avispero. So you can decide if you want to or not sign a petition, for example. And you can decide if you want to join an offline event. But what we do is that we seat people that do not think alike in the same table. So we call them expert people. So even if we have progressive values, we do seat the other side of the mountain, because Colombia is crossed by the Andes mountain range. So we seat the other side of the mountain in the same table. We do it in offline events, but also we are convinced that if people are not informed, they cannot take a real, a decision.
Thank you. Next question.
Yes, I was fascinated by this idea of combining offline events with an online platform. Do you have a generational gap between the different types of communication, and you have only young people? How do you decide who gets involved?
Yeah, mostly we have young people nowadays, but we do have older people at the moment. These are the first comers to El Avispero. So this is people that they work for different organizations. They are actually part of our expert people in different teams, and they are still making part of El Avispero through different events. But yeah, most of our people are young. Also, I would like to add a little footnote, and is that in the video I told you that we were asking for the director of that national police to be replaced, and he got replaced a couple of weeks ago. We sent more than 6,000 emails to decision makers, so that was a win for El Avispero.
Maria, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Judges, thank you for your questions as well. We will now learn a little bit more about our next finalist, and that is Project Rebirth.
I grew up on a farming community with both parents as farmers, and in 2015, I lost 2 years of university due to economic limitations. My name is Oluwadamilola Akintewe. I am the founder of Project Rebirth. My team and I are committed towards fostering economic prosperity for people in rural communities across Africa. According to the World Bank, over 50% of poor people live in rural communities, and they are women. And over 17 million women and girls lack access to skills for a source of income generation. This was what inspired Project Rebirth. My team and I leverages entrepreneurship as a means for social impact. In our pilot community, we identified over 300 women who needed skills. But because to enroll for formal training costs a minimum of $200 per student, we provide this training for free in sewing to give them a stable source of income generation, upward social mobility, and better livelihood. We took our impact a step further by providing mini loans to our beneficiaries who could not qualify for traditional banking loan facilities. And because we are committed to ethical impact, we train our participants to reduce, recycle, and reuse cloth waste as a solidarity for sustainable fashion in the fight against climate injustice. I am happy to say that our beneficiaries earn a minimum of $120, which is 2 times higher than the average national minimum wage in Nigeria. And We'll call you to join us in creating better opportunities for people in rural communities to change the narrative and to create a better world for us all.
Uluwala, welcome to our stage. This is your microphone, and the judges have their questions.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah. Thank you so much. What is the thing that you need most urgently to be successful?
Okay, so the beauty right now of Project Rebirth is that we're a social enterprise that is easily replicable. And what you need is just a passionate people and interest to change the community. But right now, to expand, would love more partnership, more funding, because we provide mini loans for our beneficiaries so that they can start their businesses and be self-sufficient, so that we don't have to depend on the government for job creation. So partnerships, so that we can replicate this project elsewhere and expand our impact. Thank you.
In your view, what is the feature that makes this project unique? What is the one that you will choose?
Yes. The most unique thing about Project Rebirth is co-creation. For every community that we go to, we don't just come and dump our ideas on them. We meet, we have need-based assessments with every members of the community. We speak to them to know the kind of solution they need. In our pilot community, we used sewing as the way of impacting. But in other communities where they already have something they are doing, like little farming communities, we didn't teach them sewing because that skill was not necessary. Rather, we provide enabling environments so that they can improve their skills and get more money. That is where the mini loan comes in. So, yes.
Thank you. Next question.
I guess you've been working with some of the women for some time. How have you seen them develop over like a number of years, presumably? How do you track that success that you have? How do you measure it?
Okay, so Project Rebirth, firstly, was inspired by my mom, who I've seen with other women in the community who made do with even the most little of resources. So it showed me that one thing that divides the rich and the poor is not laziness, rather the absence of an enabling environment. And since 2017 that we launched, we've tracked impact by comparing how much they were making before the project and after. And one of my best success stories is that when they get income, when they have a stable source of income generation, now they can fight other social issues like gendered poverty. For example, period poverty, education for their children. I mean, I lost 2 years of university, but now with little money they're making every month, they can send their kids to school, which is changing a narrative that I was a victim of. And I am extremely proud of that. Yeah, the project may not be easy to do, but it is extremely fulfilling. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Judges, thank you for your questions. So we have some more excellent examples to inspire you. And the next one that we will look at is eco-work.
Hi, I'm Anurag, the third generation in my family of e-waste dismantlers in India. Not many of us know that in a developing country like India, most of the e-waste dismantling is still in the hands of informal sectors. Being a third generation dismantler, I know how important this work is for the families that depend on this ecosystem. And also, our inherited knowledge and network is so differently organized and unique that needs to be preserved. I always wondered, it's been us who have been adding value to the circular economy for several decades, and yet we are labeled as the devils just because we do not have access to the formal way of dismantling. That's when I met the co-founders of my project, and they told me about their idea of eco-work, which encouraged me to join them for creating a solution for people like me. Eco-work is a social and environment impact-driven solution that strives towards the integration of all the stakeholders in the e-waste recycling ecosystem to be connected under one roof, including informal dismantlers as the key stakeholders, where they can bring on their own e-waste dismantle in a very safe, sound setup using modern tools, equipments, and PPE, and continue their business. They can connect with the downstream buyers available inside and outside by using our digital platform to get the best value for their dismantle fraction. Both the physical and digital infrastructure is available in a very affordable pay-per-use model that does not lock the crucial capital of the micro-entrepreneurs. The first of its kind pilot facility is ready to open in India, and we aim to have it as a scalable model that can be replicated across other countries. At EcoWork, we believe in achieving sustainability by creating an inclusive circular economy.
You got one?
Welcome. There is your microphone, and the judges have
Namaste,
their questions.
everyone.
Hello, thank you. So I love the idea. In terms of lifting people from the informal sector into a more formal employment, I wasn't quite sure if that's part of the business model, because I guess you could provide the space and still people are continuing to work in an informal labor market, or are you actually pulling them with your project into proper employment?
No, we're not providing employment as such, but we are going to encourage them. They leave their small houses and residential neighborhoods and come work in an industrial setup, which has been set according to the rules and regulations set by government, with all the hazardous arrangement for hazardous portions that would generate out of that e-waste. And there they can work freely without us interfering in their business model, except for making sure that the hazardous portion is sent to a responsible recycler. So they can only pay rent and continue their business.
Thank you.
I found it very original project. Congratulations. How do you choose the locations, and what is your project for the next years in terms of how to increase the locations in India?
Thank you. We chose the location which is near Delhi, about 20 kilometers from the present location where all the dismantling is happening. So the location is in an industrial area where there is no restriction for the trucks to come and go. And in that industrial area that is away from residential neighborhoods, so that's we found it an ideal location. And in terms of what was the second question?
You were asking about future growth, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. In future, we are looking forward to open many such EcoWork facilities in different parts of India and other developing countries as well.
Thank you.
Lastly, you said it's the third generation, so it's a family business, right?
Yep.
What have you done? What level of innovation have you layered on top of the existing 2 generations of family business?
To be very honest, while I was working in my family business, I never thought of doing anything new. So we started facing an extension level challenge where new government policies were introduced. So we, from 10 years down from now, we started looking into darkness where our business will be closed. So that's when EcoWork happened, and I was looking forward to opening such more doors for many people like me.
Thank you very much. Judges, thank you for your questions as well. Thank you.
We have few left, right?
So that was the 6th of 8 presentations that we are enjoying and being inspired by today. The penultimate one, the 7th one, is 3 E's for Africa.
Climate change is one of the biggest challenges the world faces today. Although Africa is most affected by the adverse effects of climate change, research shows that only 3.8% of global funding for climate change research is spent on African topics. Also, when it comes to climate change research focusing specifically on Africa, only about 14% of this funding goes to African-based institutions. As a continent on the verge of the biggest demographic growth, and as the continent most vulnerable to climate change, Africa should be able to research and create innovative solutions itself, as this is key for its development. We cannot really say that we are actively addressing climate change and working towards a more sustainable future when the most vulnerable communities in the world do not have a say in it. This is where 3Ds for Africa steps in. Currently in Cameroon, Ghana, and Namibia, we empower young Africans, enabling them to use their education and create sustainable solutions to climate change through research. We provide them with mentorship, funding, and visibility as they propose and research their own innovative ideas to find adequate solutions to the climate change challenges which they face. Through their voice and ideas, they get to own their narrative and develop their continent by fighting and adapting to the climate change crisis themselves. We truly believe in African innovation for a global impact.
Welcome, sir. The judges have their questions.
Thank you so much. I know that we've repeated this a few times, but is there a sustainable business model that can kind of keep this going for 10 years, even when you are
I thought you were
busy?
going to offer him $10,000.
Not yet, not yet.
Yeah, I mean, similar to my colleagues, we are non-profit, so it means that we depend on grants. Our main source of finance comes mainly from setting up applications to foundations here in Germany, but also from the private sector. So we talk about these different foundations, so we know about the commitment, especially from Germany, when it comes to supporting developing countries and addressing the challenges of climate change. So we know that these arrangements or commitments have been renewed, and we know that the government is going to need the help of organizations that are actually addressing the challenges that people are facing on the ground. So we think that a bottom-up and top-down, so to speak, partnership would kind of like help us ensure that we are sustainable as we move through the future.
Thank you. Next question.
Yes, thank you, Contimi. You partner with African universities. Where are the projects based, the research projects based?
The research projects are on the ground in the African countries itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of success, because you're effectively enabling others to do what they do best, it must be really hard to track success.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
So we use established a concept of the Sustainable Development Goals. And beyond just looking at the SDGs, we've tried to map specific SDG targets and SDG indicators with the outcome of our project. To take an example for the Global Partnerships SDG, the indicator 17.7.1 tracks the amount of funding that flows into developing countries to promote environmentally sound technologies. So we use these kind of indicators and we can report specifically to that indicator. By the end of the year, we would have mobilized over $100,000 for the development of climate smart solutions in the developing countries.
Thank you. We still have time for one more.
You are based in Europe?
Yes.
How do we know that you know what's happening on the ground?
So I've been in Europe for the last 7 to 8 years. I'm a student at the RWTH University, so I grew up in Cameroon and I know the challenges. And that's one thing that is unique for us. We are an African diaspora organization. 70 to 80% of our members are of African descent. So we know the challenges that the young people face on the continent, and we have the trust to them, and that makes the communication easy because we have this relatability.
Quick one if we have it. Judges, we are all done.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. And project number 8 that we are going to look at and be inspired by is the Aladdin project.
Good day. My name is Chiwen Nweke, founder and CEO of Breed Merchants Enterprise, an agri-tech startup. According to the United Nations, 50%, yes, half of the food produced in Africa goes to waste, and a huge majority occurring in the post-harvest stage. In developing countries, we have traced these problems to be 3 root problems, which are farmers' inaccess to quality storage, low visibility or lack of access to market for these farmers in remote areas, and also the challenge of transporting this yield from rural to urban cities, which is farm to factory. At Breed Merchants, we have developed an end-to-end integrated solution to combat these challenges, and our solution keeps getting better. Firstly, we have built a decentralized model to aid us source all farmers in remote areas with lesser resources. This model is built on people and technology. We launched a mobile app for agents to source for farmers, train them, connect them to silo storages near them, while companies and buyers can get real-time data on what's ready for sale, creating a real-time marketplace. Our app also gathers feedbacks from farmers, useful to guide policies and initiatives to better help farmers and the agricultural value chain. So far, we've engaged 8,000 farmers. We've delivered 700 tons, with 15% of this food that should be wasted otherwise distributed. We are only just getting started. Our platform encourages people to participate profitably in food security while finding and engaging smallholder farmers around the world. Thank you.
Chinwendu, welcome to our stage. Here is your microphone. Judges, over to you.
Hi. Thank you. I love the all-round approach. So the app, do I pay to download it, or do I pay to use it on a regular basis? So basically, what is the cost to the farmer? And then also, how does that revenue actually get you to run the business? Because you said you're getting just started. So what's next then?
All right, so the app is actually free.
Okay.
Now, the major aim for the app is to get the farmers and source for the farms. It's free for download. The farmers and the agent can get it for free. Now, our business model is not to generate money from the app, but we get our revenue from 3 ways, which is direct sales. We buy these goods from the farmers. Secondly, we get it from commissions. Because we have warehousing storage in each of these local communities, they get to store their goods for free. When we help them sell, we just do a little bit of markup, 2 to 5% of what we sell for them. It doesn't affect how much they're selling. We give them better rates than the rates they will get in their markets, so it's easier for them to sell to us. So for the app, it's free. Silo storage is free. We do the agent connections for them. The agent act as extension agents because we know that in Africa, we are still in the Agritech 1.0, and there's a huge work down to Agritech 4.0. So our agents are standing as they are standing as third-party agents to be able to help us get them through. So they know the pain of these farmers. They relate them to us, and we help them find better results to that.
Thank you.
What I really enjoy about this is the Global Solution Summit, and I think this is a real solution. You've not only identified a gap and solutioned it on a whiteboard, but you've actually gone out there and done it. So my question is, once again, what are you going to do if you win this competition?
So if I win this competition, it's going to be a very huge step for us because currently we're only impacting 1,200 farmers directly. And we are moving towards the digital model because we are anchoring this project on social impacts such as employment, eradication of poverty, and to curb post-harvest waste. That's reduced food waste. With this particular platform, we know because we are going to be able to skyrocket the amount of persons we reach from 1,000 farmers. We are looking at hitting 500,000 farmers within the first year if we get a minimum of 100,000 agents. We currently have about 350 agents who are working with us right now, and they're actually doing the job perfectly. So this platform is actually a very huge one to be able to carry this impact from where it is to where it's supposed to be.
Thank you. We can have one quick question, one quick answer.
Just a question about the logistical challenges of this. Is connectivity a problem? Is the lack of digital skills a problem? How do you deal with that?
Okay, for the logistics, we currently partner with companies who actually have trucking units. So these rural communities are actually very far from the urban communities. So we give them access to logistics. Now, this is one aspect of the app because we are at the MVP stage. And that is just the beginning. The beginning is to source for the farmers. We have other stages whereby people who actually have trucking units can be able to lease their trucking unit on the app. We also have the next phase where people who actually have buildings can be able to give us those buildings for rentage and lease. So we don't have to go through the process of using resources to be able to start building warehouses from the scratch. Then now we are doing direct B2B. But we are looking to go into B2C, where people can get fresh fruit from the farm, directly from the farm to their houses.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
Your story with us. So that's eight present judges, no speaking. So that's 8 presentations that we've had. Great, inspiring stories.
Yes.
Also,
Absolutely.
8 people who've come up here to this stage and have told us all about them. All 8 are standing here right now. I'm going to ask all of them to stand up, and I'm going to ask everyone to give them another round of applause. Please. And that applause was to say congratulations. It was to encourage you to do great things in the future. And it was also to say thank you for putting up with these 3 and the questions that they asked you as well. So please do feel free to resume your seats. Judges, I don't envy you your choice, but now it is the time for you to choose. So if you can please leave the stage. Let's give the judges another round of applause as they go. And I'm going to welcome to the stage, well, I thought I was going to do it to this one, but the lights have gone out, so that suggests we're going to stay on this stage here. I'm going to invite Dennis Snower to come to the stage, but also someone really special, and we're so thrilled that he's with us again this year, the winner of last year's awards, Matthias Yabe. Give him a big round of applause. And welcome to both of you. If you could use that microphone there for you, and Dennis, you've got one in your hand already. How's it been? What has happened over the last year?
Well, last year has been really exciting. And first of all, I would like to thank Global Solutions Initiative for giving, us this opportunity for our voices to be heard at such important gatherings, because it's very important for us to be heard. And I would like to also congratulate the Young Global Changers for this year, for the amazing work. I'm truly, truly inspired, and I'm excited about what you do next.
Were you glad it wasn't you up here presenting again this year?
Of course, I was very relaxed the whole time. Very, very relaxed the whole time. I know how it feels. So yes, fingers crossed for the best. So last year, our work has been able to reach over 250 farmers directly. And then we also secured 8 global recognitions in addition to that of Global Solutions recognition. We were able to reduce up to 300 tons of CO2 emissions, that is from avoided food waste emissions. And in addition to that, we were also able to secure 5 global partnerships.
I'm sorry, I should have asked you, just remind us what it is that your enterprise does.
Right, so my enterprise is AcoFresh. So AcoFresh is currently on a mission to help reduce the issue of post-harvest losses in smallholder farming communities. Because currently, according to FAO, up to 40% of all food produced in sub-Saharan Africa is lost before getting to consumers. And this is affecting smallholder farmers. So what we are doing is that we've innovated a solar-powered cold storage preservation technology, which is extending shelf life of crops from 5 days to 21 days, helping farmers reduce losses by 50%, improving their livelihoods, and reducing food waste carbon emissions. So that is what we do. So aside reducing food waste carbon emissions by 300 tons last year, we were able to also secure up to $40,000 in funding, in addition to what we received from Global Solutions Initiative.
I think that deserves a round of applause. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what is try not to knock over the awards for this year's winners, what are the next steps for you? What happens next?
Yes, that is where the excitement comes in. So currently, quick next steps is for us to scale our solution. Over the past year, we've been trying our best to fundraise and then create partnerships. So last year, we've been through recognition from Global World Economic Forum and even Global Solutions Initiative. We've been able to have our work featured on several global platforms, even including the United Nations Climate Change Conference, where we've been able to have conversations with potential partners and sponsors who can help us scale our work even beyond at the shores of Ghana. So that was what we did last year, trying to engage partners, trying to engage government and then non-profit organizations to help us scale the solution. And it's been quite successful from some of the conversations we've had. So this year, we are hoping to launch 2 new products in Ghana. And then we've also begun looking into needs assessment in Zambia, and then hoping to scale our solution from Ghana to Zambia. So hopefully, we keep our fingers crossed. By mid next year, we should be in Zambia, and by end of this year, we should have 2 new products launched in Ghana.
We all wish you every continuing success, and congratulations on the success that you have achieved. Dennis Snower, when you and your colleagues first thought about these awards and what you hoped they might achieve and what they might stimulate, what a wonderful example this is of what you wanted to achieve. What's your thought?
I think this is exactly what we're after in Global Solutions. Things that promote material prosperity and social prosperity and environmental prosperity all at the same time. And virtually all of these projects have all of this wrapped up in one inspiring package. And the question that needs to be asked in each of these cases is that we always, in good times and in bad times in the world can isolate thousands of little rays of hope. But the big question is, which of these rays of hope can turn into gleaming flow of sunshine by scaling up, or by inspiring enough activism so that other people say, oh, I've got the point, and in a completely different field, I can carry this on. And so a big question to be asked of all our wonderful YGC presenters is this question of how do we start a movement and how do we scale?
And you are content, given the quality of what we've seen today, that that movement is in very safe hands, very good hands indeed.
Extremely. I mean, I'm inspired beyond any expectation that I could possibly have had, and congratulate you all.
Dennis and Matthias, thank you both very much for being with us today. Thank you. Now we have two further presentations. Before the judges come back and give us the results of their deliberations, we've got two more special awards to reveal this evening, and I'm going to invite Ole back to the stage, who's going to talk us through this particular segment. Give him a round of applause to say welcome back.
Thank you, Declan. Thank you, everyone. Yes, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have two more special awards to give away. Because we have a wonderful partner. PwC has supported us along the way, and they have provided two excellent supporting opportunities for two members of our Young Global Changers. And the first one will be skilled volunteering work by the excellently qualified team of PwC. So they've looked at the projects, and the projects have identified needs where they need help, support. And PwC is volunteering several hours of their well-paid but excellent work, of course, yes. And so one of you will actually win support by professionals within the PwC team. And that award goes to OKB Foundation and OSAI. Let's watch.
Imagine walking several miles to the nearest hospital. After making this long journey, you then have to wait days and sometimes weeks, hoping you are one of the lucky ones who is able to see a doctor. For rural Ghanaians, this is unusual. Many sick patients have to travel several miles for desperately needed care. And this is what OKB Hope Foundation is working so hard to change. We want to bring healthcare to the doorsteps of these communities. With our mobile health van, which is equipped with medical supplies and equipment, and with our seasoned healthcare providers, we have provided care to over 3,000 individuals across 32 rural communities. We've trained 20 community members to serve as health advocates in their communities. These volunteers can provide early screenings and, most importantly, health education to their fellow community members. We believe that timely and quality health care is essential for people to live a productive life and also contribute their quota to their community and the society as a whole. Will you join me today in making healthcare accessible to all? Because every time we delay, a mother, a father, a son, and a daughter pays with their lives.
Congratulations. All right, okay. All right, thank you so much. Okay, we have, give it up for OSAI and this wonderful project. And before the jury returns, we actually have one more prize to give away, also supported by our partner. And that is a participation in a scale-up program It's called RACE, and it helps one of the projects to identify how to scale up better, how to find investors, help with fundraising, and support you along the way. So, and that award goes to Katy Patty Organics.
Namaste, my name is Vinamrata Sharma and I'm the co-founder of Katy Patty Organics. We are a women-led rural enterprise located in the beautiful town of Donkuta, surrounded by our smallholder farmers and the local community. Katy Patty Organics had started as an idea when I first met my partner back when I was working in New York. Since then, we've been working closely with our farmers who are truly the backbone of our economy, but continue to face significant post-harvest loss as high as 50% on adverse conditions. At Katy Patty Organics, our mission is to prevent the post-harvest loss and bring financial stability to all our smallholder farmers through market creation and value addition. We specialize in cold storage and advanced dehydration techniques that allows us to extend the shelf life of a wide range of perishables, reducing their chances of wastage and spoilage. In a span of 2 years' time, we've provided market to over 30 tons of produce, increasing farm income by 25% and reducing food loss by 12 tons. Through this integrated model of knowledge transfer and market creation, we are recoupling the social, economic, and environmental prosperity of the region, firstly, by bringing financial stability to all our smallholder farmers, secondly, by providing income and employment opportunities to the vulnerable members of the community, and thirdly, by using sustainable ways to mitigate food wastage and promote food security. Thank you.
All right. Congratulations. Thank you. All right. Okay. Another round of applause, please. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much. This is for you. So those were our 2 special awards. And now, I don't know if the jury is ready. Maybe
Are they
we
ready?
can call them back in.
Have they made a decision? It was a difficult choice. So
certainly,
if they need more time, then they can't have it. It is time for our judges to return. Give them a round of applause as they make their way back in. And the first of our jury members is going to announce the winner of the 3rd prize. So, jury member who is responsible for this, please reveal the details.
Thank you. Well, firstly, all of the projects were amazing. I am simply admired by what all of you have achieved. The 3rd prize will go to EcoWork. Anurag Gupta, congratulations. Congratulations. Well done. There's your prize. Oh, we need a photo. Congratulations.
Let's have another round of applause.
Oh, sorry,
for our
of course.
3rd prize winner. And now for the 2nd prize.
Yes. I also join the words of Marianne that they were brilliant projects and keep on working. It was a very intense conversation about how to decide. And the 2nd prize goes to Abundant Water by Emily Clifford. Congratulations.
It's all very well doing it in reverse order, but all we've done is made 6 people there really, really nervous about the next name that is going to come out of your mouth, because you're going to tell us who the overall winner is.
So the moment we've all been waiting for, and what stands between you and the rest of the evening, we've had vociferous debates and kicking and screaming about lots of things, but the one thing we agreed on was that we all came out with a winner. So We were unanimous in our decision. And the overall winner for the first prize is Bridge Merchant, the Aladdin Project, Chinwende, Nweke, Nigeria.
Thank you. All right.
How lovely to be at an award ceremony where people are genuinely delighted to have won. This sets us apart from the Oscars and various other events. What wonderful finalists we've had here this evening. What fantastic winners as well. Let's give them all one final round of applause.